The hallways of Westville High pulsed with the electric hum of teenage life, laughter bouncing off chipped lockers, sneakers squeaking in a mad dash to the next class, and the constant clatter of metal doors slamming shut. Amid this chaos glided Hannah, a slim figure cloaked in a hoodie, her eyes fixed on the scuffed linoleum floor. She was a mid-year transfer, a quiet enigma who spoke to no one. It wasn't that she craved invisibility, she'd simply learned the hard way that attention often came with a price. At her old school, snide remarks had sliced through her, hands had lingered where they shouldn't, and stairwells had become places of dread. So when she arrived at Westville, she armored herself in silence, blending into the background like a shadow. But shadows don't escape predators, and predators always sense fear. Jason, Cole, and Brent, three seniors with swagger to spare, ruled the halls with their loud voices and cruel games. They thrived on picking out the weak, and Hannah, with her lowered gaze and wordless demeanor, was an easy target. For weeks, they tested her limits. Paper wads flicked at her in class, shoulders blocking her path in crowded corridors, and low, suggestive comments tossed just loud enough for her to hear. She never reacted, her face a mask of indifference, but they mistook her silence for weakness. They didn't know she was a coiled spring, waiting for the moment they pushed too far. It happened on a Tuesday, in the quiet stretch of hallway near the gym, a blind spot where the school's cameras didn't reach. Hannah walked alone, her books clutched tightly to her chest, her hoodie shielding her from the world. Jason nudged Cole, a disgusting grin spreading across his face as he whispered something vile. Then he stepped into her path. "Hey, where you off to so fast?" he sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. She tried to sidestep him, eyes fixed on the floor. He blocked her again, closer this time, his friends snickering behind him. Then, with a boldness that made even his cronies freeze, he reached out and grabbed her chest. For one heartbeat, the world stopped. Cole and Brent stood stunned, as if they hadn't expected Jason to actually cross that line. The few students lingering nearby froze, their chatter dying in their throats. But Hannah didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She raised her eyes, locking them onto Jason's with a cold, unyielding stare. Then she dropped her books, and what happened next became the stuff of school legend. In 3 seconds flat, she moved like lightning. She grabbed Jason's wrist, twisted it with surgical precision, and flipped him onto the floor with a force that echoed through the hall. As he hit the ground with a grunt, she drove her elbow into his ribs, the thud reverberating off the walls. Cole lunged forward, but Hannah was faster. She sidestepped, hooked her foot behind his knee, and sent him crashing down with a howl of pain. Brent, panicking, tried to grab her from behind, but she spun, her palm striking his chest with such force that he slammed into the lockers, wheezing and clutching his ribs. The hallway fell silent, the air thick with shock. A handful of students who'd just rounded the corner stood gaping, their phones already out, capturing the aftermath of Hannah's storm. She didn't say a word. She adjusted her hoodie, picked up her books, and walked away, her steps steady but her heart pounding. The school erupted in whispers by the next period. Some called her a hero, others a vigilante. The video, grainy, shaky, but unmistakable, spread like wildfire across group chats and social media. It showed the exact moment Jason crossed the line, and the precise second Hannah made him regret it. By lunch, it had hit platforms like MidnightTales, her story gaining traction among viewers who saw her not just as a girl, but as a symbol of defiance. The bullies didn't press charges, how could they? Everyone knew what Jason had done, and the footage was proof. But the spotlight wasn't what Hannah wanted. The eyes, the whispers, the sudden fame, it clawed at old wounds she'd buried deep. She skipped school for 2 days, hiding from the noise. On the 3rd day, a knock came at her door. It was Miss Rivera, her PE teacher, a woman with a kind face and a no-nonsense voice. "I know you want to disappear," she said, sitting across from Hannah in her small living room. "But what you did wasn't just about you. You gave every quiet girl in this school a spark of hope. Hannah stared at her hands, unsure how to respond. She'd learned self-defense from her uncle, a martial artist who'd seen her through years of bullying at her old school. She'd never thought she'd need those skills again, until she did. Miss Rivera leaned forward, her eyes bright with an idea. "Why don't you teach?" Hannah blinked, caught off guard. "Me?" she whispered. Rivera nodded. "There are girls in this school, dozens, who are afraid to walk the halls. You can show them how to stand tall, how to fight back." It started small, a handful of girls meeting after school in the gym, their sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Hannah taught them how to block, how to pivot, how to stare down a threat even when their voices shook. She showed them moves she'd practiced in her uncle's dojo, moves that had saved her in that hallway. Word spread, and the group grew. They called it Silent Strength, a name that stuck because it captured what Hannah had become, a quiet force, unbreakable despite her scars. Each girl who joined carried her own story, some bruised by words, others broken by silence. For the first time, Hannah wasn't alone. But the fight didn't erase her challenges. Whispers followed her, some students called her violent, a loose cannon. Teachers gave her wary glances, unsure how to handle the girl who'd taken down 3 seniors in seconds. Jason's crew, though humiliated, still strutted through the halls, their arrogance barely dented. They avoided her, but their presence was a reminder that not everything had changed. Hannah faced internal battles too, nightmares of her old school, flashbacks to that moment in the hallway, doubts that gnawed at her courage. Yet every time she stepped into the gym and saw those girls, their faces a mix of fear and determination, she remembered why she'd fought. Not just for herself, but for them. One afternoon, she was called to the principal's office. Her stomach twisted, expecting trouble. Instead, she found Jason, his parents, the school counselor, and Miss Rivera waiting. It wasn't an ambush, it was an apology. Jason's mother, her face tight with shame, spoke first, her voice trembling. "We didn't raise him to be like this. We're so sorry." Jason, slouched in his chair, couldn't meet Hannah's eyes at first. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "I didn't know you could fight," he mumbled. Hannah's gaze was steady, her words cutting through the room like a blade. "That's the problem. You shouldn't have to wonder if someone can fight to treat them like a person." The apology didn't erase what happened, but it was a crack in the wall, a sign that her stand had rippled beyond that hallway. The video on MidnightTales kept gaining views, comments flooding in from strangers who saw her as a beacon. Hannah didn't watch it, the attention still made her skin crawl. But she kept teaching. Silent Strength grew, drawing girls from every corner of the school. They learned more than punches. They learned to set boundaries, to walk with confidence, to speak when silence felt safer. Hannah's voice, once locked away, began to emerge. She wasn't loud, but she was clear, her words carrying the weight of someone who'd fought and won. By spring, Hannah had become something unexpected, a leader. During school safety week, she stood in front of the auditorium, her hoodie swapped for a simple jacket, her eyes meeting the crowds. She didn't talk about violence. She spoke about self-worth, about the courage to say no, about how defense starts in the heart long before it reaches the fists. The room was silent, hanging on her every word. Even Jason's crew, sitting in the back, didn't dare interrupt. The girl who'd once been invisible now held the school's attention, not because she demanded it, but because she'd earned it. Her story spread beyond Westville. On MidnightTales, the video-inspired playlists about empowerment, self-defense tutorials, and stories of others who'd stood up. Hannah didn't seek the fame, but she couldn't stop it. Girls from other schools reached out, asking how to start their own Silent Strength groups. Teachers began inviting her to speak at assemblies, though she kept her talks short, letting her actions speak louder. The nightmares didn't vanish, and the whispers didn't fully fade, but they no longer defined her. She'd found a purpose in the gym, in the girls who looked to her, in the knowledge that her fight had lit a spark. They tried to break her in silence, but she rose in strength. Not to destroy, but to protect, not to shame, but to teach. Her power wasn't just in her hands, it was in her heart, in the way she carried her scars and turned them into armor. Every girl who trained with her, who walked the halls a little taller, carried a piece of that strength. Hana's voice, once a whisper, became a call that echoed far beyond Westville, proving that sometimes, one brave stand can teach the world to listen.